Syrian army expands its operation in Daraa countryside to the south, eliminating scores of terrorists and destroying their supply lines to the Zionist enemy. Egyptian and Libyan airstrikes eliminate scores of ISIL members in Derna city. A Turkish opposition member of the parliament reveals that Erdogan secretly pays money to the Jewish lobby in Washington in a gesture of alliance with Israel. Good afternoon, this is News in English from the Syrian television in Damascus. We start our bulletin with the news on the ground in Daraa, to the south of the country and its countryside, where Syrian Arab Army units targeted terrorist gatherings east of Al-Karak and the camp of the displaced, the surroundings of the electricity company in Al-Manshiyah neighborhood, as well as east of Al-Matala, Kafr Nasij, Aqraba, Ataman, Tafas, Da'il and Mzarib. While in Quneitra countryside, armed men were killed and wounded, and their vehicles were destroyed in Batna, Mashara and Rasm al-Khawalid. Terrorists were also killed, and their vehicles were destroyed in Al-Hamidiyah, Tel Salmo, Abu Dhuhur, and Majrain in Idlib suburbs. While in Latakia countryside, many gunmen were killed in Wadi Sheikhan, Kansabba, Khan al-Joz, and Al-Kayal. Going to Homs countryside, terrorist gatherings were targeted in the villages of Jazal Mas'ada, northern Al-Msherfa, Anq al-Hawa and Rahum. Others were killed in Al-Latamni and Al-Intisam in Hama countryside. In Hasaka countryside, Syrian Arab Army units killed and wounded a number of ISIL terrorists in the villages of Mafraq al-Siddiq and Al-Hawaz. Other Syrian Arab Army units carried out successful operations, inflicting on ISIL terrorists huge losses in men and material in the villages of Al-Majdal. 8 people have been killed and 36 others injured when missiles and mortar shells hit Aleppo residential areas. A police command source said that the shells were fired from Bani Zayd and Bustan al-Bashar, targeting Al-Mugambo, Al-Aziziyah, Al-Hamadaniya and Al-Zahra neighborhoods, as well as the Nile and Jashrin streets. Material damage, the source added, was inflicted on a number of houses, shops and cars, while in Daraa, mortar shells were fired by terrorists on residential quarters on the city, causing material damage to properties. The United Nations envoy to Syria, Staffan de Mistura, is due to submit his report to the United Nations Security Council today on his efforts to find a solution to the crisis in Syria. During his recent visit to Damascus, de Mistura affirmed that the only solution to the crisis in Syria should be political, and that ISIL is the only side that benefits from the current situation due to the lack of solution. It is like a monster that waits for the crisis to continue in order to take advantage of the situation, according to de Mistura. Secretary General of Hezbollah, Lebanese party, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, has said that the game in Syria is over and that the continuation of fighting there, backed by regional and international forces, is like knocking one's head in the mountain, and a persistence by these forces to destroy Syria and hinder the political solution. In a speech delivered yesterday marking the anniversary of the martyrdom of leaders of Hezbollah, Sayyid Nasrallah underlined that the region's peoples and governments should not wait for any Western or Atlantic strategy to eliminate terrorism. Rather, they should take the initiative to face this takfiri current and not permit it to expand, adding that ultimately what the United States is most concerned about is to plunder the region's oil and assets and deplete it economically and socially for the best interest of Israel. Nasrallah further called upon the region's peoples and governments to collectively work to defeat ISIS and those who stand behind it, considering that the strategy adopted by the West against this terrorist organization has proved to be a failure one, and that it is evidence that the West has no sincere and honest intention to eliminate it. Said Nasrallah went on to say that the reality on the ground and battlefield, let alone the historical and geographical facts, would not tolerate Lebanon to disassociate itself from the region's crisis, as some claim, pointing out the destiny of all the region states is to be made in this region as a whole and not by one country, adding that he who wishes to determine Lebanon's fate should be present regarding the region's fate. Said Nasrallah stressed that those who accuse Hezbollah of interfering in Bahrain were the first to interfere in Syria, paying money and supplying weapons to terrorists, calling upon those who give advice to be the first to put them in practice. Said Nasrallah concluded by saying that the Takfiri current, which ISIS as its main headline, is a threat to all peoples of the region, the world, and Islam as a faith and a message and truth that the world has grown more convinced of, except Israel, which is Minister of Defense has recently said that ISIS and Jabhat al-Nusra don't form at the least threat to Israel, adding that these statements were logical as all what ISIS has perpetrated and is still perpetrating serves Israel's best interest. The Iraqi army has eliminated 11 ISIL members in Al-Amiriyah and Al-Fallujah in Al-Anbar governorate. 120 Iraqis were kidnapped by ISIL terrorists in Al-Rabida village east of Tikrit in Salahuddin governorate. The Sheikh's Council of Salahuddin tribes called for speeding up the rescue of the kidnapped before the massacre is committed against them. Seven airstrikes have been launched by Libyan and Egyptian aircrafts on ISIL positions in the Libyan city of Darna, killing and wounding scores of ISIL terrorists. According to special sources quoted by the Libyan news media, the terrorist Ansar al-Sharia group, which pledged allegiance to ISIL 3 months ago, kidnapped at least 35 Egyptians in various parts of the country yesterday. Libyan Prime Minister Abdullah Thani has called on the United Nations Security Council and the international community to lift the embargo imposed on providing Libyan army with weapons, asking for rendering logistic and military support to the army in its confrontations with terrorism. Al-Thani said terrorism has no home and ISIL's slaughtering of 21 Egyptians will not go unpunished. He affirmed that the Libyan government has warned against the terrorist organizations which seek to impose their agendas by force of arms. Al-Thani referred to the suffering of the Libyans as a result of the spread of terrorism, pointing out that the government condemns terror regardless of its source. The Turkish parliamentary representative of the main opposition Republican People's Party in Turkey, Aykut Erdogan, revealed that Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who pretends to be an advocate of Palestinian rights and Palestinian people, had secretly paid more than $68 million to the Jewish lobby in the United States in order to satisfy Washington by showing loyalty to its ally in the region, Israel. Erdogan, who heads the corruption investigation unit in the Turkish parliament, said that Erdogan's Justice and Development Party has struck agreements with the Jewish lobby and the United States Congress, as well as several other well-known people in the lobby, with the aim of forming a pressure group to serve the Turkish interests on the international arena. Erdogan also criticized the policy of Justice and Development government, which claim opposing Israel while it secretly rushes to the United States to show itself as a supporter of Israel. With this, we conclude our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy. Stay with us, the latest in the world of economy, after the break with Naima.